The Jets keep loading up. Harrison Lee of Locked On Jets joins us to discuss that next on Locked On's 2024 NHL Trade Deadline Special.
The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NHL Trade Deadline.
Gil Martin from Locked On NHL here. The Winnipeg Jets, who have already added Sean Monahan on earlier this season, have traded a second and third round pick to the New Jersey Devils from Tyler Toffoli. Harrison Lee is here to break down another win now move for GM Kevin Cheveldayoff. And Harrison, your initial impression of this trade?
Absolute home run. That's the only way to really describe it. They did everything that they needed to in terms of finding a great top six forward who can score. Really, you couldn't do much better unless you got like Jake Gensel.
All right, so where does Toffoli fit into the Jets lineup now?
Given that he's not like the fastest skater, I think what they're probably going to do is have him play alongside Monahan. Both he and Monahan are kind of the more methodically paced players. At least that's my guess. Because Vilardi is still out, it's kind of hard to get a read on the lineup, I guess. Maybe Vilardi slides down to the third line, so you essentially run, three top six lines. Not entirely sure on that one, but I think it'll probably be with Monahan and Ehlers. Best guess.
All right, that'll be interesting to see. So now with this addition of Toffoli, how does Winnipeg's forward group stack up with the rest of the Western Conference contenders?
So I think this forward group is pretty good. I don't think it's like the number one unit. I still think Dallas is up there, but it's top five, maybe even top three. The one thing I was just thinking about, and Vilardi probably goes back on the first line. That would be a problem because it kind of makes the first line a bit on the rough side. I mean, they can score, but they kind of get pummeled out there. So unless they kind of get away from that, I still think it's a top three group, but it just depends on how they're used. That's kind of been one of the biggest challenges this season and something that's maybe held them back a little bit from being the elite group that they look like they are on paper.
Is there anything they can do internally to fix that?
Mostly convince the coaching staff that Vilardi with Connor and Scheifele isn't really a great idea. Ehlers, when he was up there, immediately made a huge difference, partly because he's just such a really good skater and he creates a lot of space. I think that move alone would solve a lot of problems, but otherwise, if they're really committed to that and they're not going to change, at this point, you just have to hope that the second line with Monahan, Ehlers, and Toffoli really takes flight, and I'm expecting it to. I think that unit is going to dominate. I think they're going to be really good. Other than that, they might be excited about Rucker McGroarty signing at the end of his college season. He could probably slide into the bottom six. We're just going to have to wait and see a little bit on that one because I feel like he might have a little bit more of a learning curve. So sheltering the first line, which is really not a concept you want to even talk about, but that's probably what you would have to do if you're really committed and you don't think that there's any other way Bones is going to run that first line.
So are the Jets done, or is there something else that may be coming down the pike before the trade deadline passes?
So the Jets definitely were after some sort of top six winger and a depth defender. Because this trade was actually for next year's second rounder and this year's third rounder, that means they kept their Montreal second rounder this season, which is honestly about on par with the late first, which is what the Jets gave up for Monahan. So I think that they're still going after something. And with all the rumors about Chychrun still being potentially shopped, he's the name that I keep circling around. I don't think it's going to happen unless the Jets are willing to maybe go for broke on this one and go for a bigger trade package with some prospects. I would anticipate like a third pairing defender, but if they really are swinging big, like it seems like they're setting up to do, maybe they've got one big surprise for us. That's usually how they operate around this time of year. They kind of go off the board, something that people aren't really expecting. And Chychrun would definitely kind of satisfy that box.
Well, that would certainly be a big trade. For more on the Jets at the NHL trade deadline, tune into Locked On Winnipeg Jets on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.